Hey folks, this is Kalani. The War Within Prepatch finally has an official release date and it's going to arrive a bit sooner than we thought. We also have some new endgame content for all players, including solo content or open world content players, and they're going to have more options than ever before up at max level. But perhaps the most important change in the War Within is that you're going to have a lot more freedom and choice for where you get your big gear upgrades. We also have some big class changes to go over, including a bit of a paradigm shift for how healing is going to work and feel, and then there are even more changes to the new affixes in the Mythic plus Keystone system. There's a lot to talk about, so let's break it all down. Now before we jump in, be sure to hit up that like button and subscribe so you never miss another video. First up this week, we finally have an official release date for the War Within Prepatch and the new event coming our way. Prepatch hits live servers on July 23rd, so we don't have too much longer to wait. We're in the final stretch before the new expansion and all the new adventures that await us. There are some very important changes coming in Prepatch. You can find a link in the comments to a video that goes over them in more detail, but for a quick rundown, we're going to see all of the class and talent changes for the War Within, and some classes are getting significant reworks, so I'll have some time in Prepatch to get used to all of those changes. Perhaps the most important change is the addition of the warband system. This makes almost everything account-wide. Things like important system progression, like renown and reputations, a lot of currencies, almost every achievement, flight pass and exploration. You only have to do this kind of stuff once now, and every character on your account will have that progress shared. Playing alts is going to be so different this time around. I am super excited for warbands in general. We'll also have an account-wide bank to fill up, and there are even opportunities to earn gear for your other characters, so this system is really expansive and it will change your gameplay experience quite significantly. We'll also get this really cool character select screen where you have your 4 favourite characters chilling around a campfire. The dev team also confirmed that we will get new backgrounds and scenes to unlock for this character select screen, which is super cool. I think Lost Ark did this incredibly well, and they had a bunch of different login screen options that you could collect for completing various types of content. Imagine if we got a new Mage Tower style challenge which then rewarded you with a unique character select screen. That would be awesome. We'll also be able to collect transmog much easier after Prepatch. Almost all restrictions for collecting transmog have been removed, so you can earn the transmog for items you can't even use to fill up your collection much faster. You'll be able to dragon ride, or sky ride as it's going to be called going forward, with almost any flying mount, and you can freely swap between sky riding and steady flying, so you can change that whenever you want. Leveling will become much faster and you can use Chromie time up until level 70. There are a whole bunch of user interface updates and new options to make your gameplay smoother, and then we'll also have a brand new event to play around with where we visit some old zones and earn various rewards. The Radiant Echoes event starts up a week after Prepatch goes live on July 30th, so we'll have a week to get used to everything in Prepatch, and then the event will run from the 30th pretty much up until the expansion launches. Prepatch is the perfect time to jump back in, play around with all of these big changes, and get your characters all set up and ready for the War Within expansion. This week also gave us a clearer picture of how open world and solo content is going to work at max level in the War Within. We'll have these special new world quests called special assignments that are kind of a return of the emissary style objectives. The special assignments reward you with an epic cache that contains upgrade materials, gold and more. To unlock that special world quest, you need to complete 3 other world quests in the same zone, so it's very similar to the emissary system we saw in previous expansions, and due to these big purple boxes of goodies, completing world quests should end up being more valuable in general in the War Within when compared to Dragonflight. Then there are also various world events in the War Within too. You can find the Theatre Troop in the Isle of Dawn zone, the Awakening the Machine event in the Ringing Deeps, the Spreading the Light event can be found in Hallowfall, and then you can also make special pacts down in Azj-Kahet for even more weekly rewards. All of this content is going to reward you with a similar cache full of upgrade materials and various other goodies, but the first 2 caches you get from any source will also contain a random piece of gear. Before the season starts, that gear will be on the adventurer track, but when the season is live, it will be bumped up to veteran gear, so you have 2 guaranteed sources of veteran gear as open world or solo content players. It's also completely up to you which 2 events or activities you want to do to get your first 2 caches. So if you don't like one of the events, you don't really have to take part in it. Do the two that you like to get your big gear upgrades for the week. In addition to those rewards, the first 4 caches you get will also reward you with 100 coffer key fragments, which you can combine into coffer keys to use in bountiful delves. If you check your world map, some of the delves have a different icon, kind of like the door of the delve is all lit up. These are bountiful delves and they rotate, so you may have different bountiful delves each day. These delves have extra chests at the end with much better rewards, but you need those coffer keys to unlock them. So delves themselves could be worth running for solo content players, but bountiful delves with a coffer key are going to be worth so much more. So that's going to be another great source of upgrades for folks who aren't hopping into dungeons or raids quite as often. This creates a very simple gameplay loop. You'll want to complete the various events and activities to get those caches, get your 2 pieces of gear and your 4 guaranteed keys, use those keys in bountiful delves and get even more gear and character progress. It's important to note that these aren't the only sources of coffer keys and fragments, so even after you've got your weekly keys and your weekly caches, you can still work towards more keys to get those shiny upgrades from bountiful delves as well. So you actually have a lot of options as a solo content player in the War Within. You don't have to do dungeons or raids to get good gear, and it seems like you'll be kept quite busy with world quests and delves. But one of the best parts of these updates is that they also tie into your weekly Great Vault. There's a new row in the War Within for world content, and this seems to include those special world quests, any of the events, as well as delves. So you'll have plenty of opportunities to add to your weekly vault to get some good rewards on reset day. It seems like the higher tier of the delves that you complete, the higher item level rewards you are going to get, so there's plenty of room for upgrades here too. The War Within is going to give world content or solo content players more to do than even Dragonflight at this rate. Now moving on, this week also brought some more Mythic Plus changes, and it's not just minor tuning changes. One of the new affixes, Xalatas Bargain Frenzied, is being removed. The affix increased the haste of monsters when they got to low health, but caused them to take more damage. The dev team are removing it because it's too passive and there's not really any counterplay, which is a key theme moving forward. They want affixes to be impactful, but also give you a way to actually deal with them. So in its place, we're going to see Xalatas Bargain Voidbound. While in combat, Xalatas summons Void Emissaries which try to buff surrounding monsters, increasing their damage. If you kill the emissary, you'll get a 20% crit buff for 20 seconds, so you want to focus these down when they pop up and use the buff to nuke everything else down. Getting these big buffs for overcoming an affix is a great change, and I hope they keep this mindset moving forward. The other affix, Ascendant, was a bit too busy visually, so it will be reduced down to 10 orbs from 20 orbs, so that will be easier to deal with as well. It's really interesting to see the dev team make these big changes. It's not just numbers tuning or little changes here and there, they're still scrapping stuff that doesn't work and bringing new ideas to the table. That's refreshing to see, and I think Mythic Plus will be much better because of it. And then let's round out this week's video with the most recent class changes. Perhaps most importantly, healing was changed quite significantly across the board, and the general goal of healing will be a bit different in the War Within. Health pools will be increasing, so everyone will have more health, which means it might take a bit more effort to keep everyone topped off. In addition to that, the dev team are reducing the power and effectiveness of percentage-based heals, while increasing the power of hybrid healing and single target heals to make sure they provide enough throughput. You'll see quite a few of these changes as we go through the classes. For the Death Knights, the heal they get from Rune of the Fallen Crusader was reduced down to 4% of their max health. There are some damage buffs in here for the Deathbringer hero talent tree for Frost DK, some buffs to the Rider of the Apocalypse hero talent tree, with more for Unholy, allowing various abilities to also scale with their mastery, so they should get more out of that tree in general. Then there was a minor buff to the Sand Lane tree as well. For Demon Hunter, the Aldrachi Reaver hero talent tree saw quite a few nerfs, and there's a new change for Havoc that causes Fellblade to consume nearby soul fragments, which is actually a really important change. That hero talent tree revolves around consuming soul fragments, and Havoc didn't really have any way to suck them up like Vengeance can, so that is a huge change for that tree for Havoc. Consuming a soul fragment will also now heal you for 6% of max health, down from 10%, so that's going to be a big nerf to DH self-sustain. For the druids, Swift Mend, Wild Growth, Rejuvenation and Regrowth Healing were all increased by 15%, which is interesting because the dev notes said that they were mostly focusing on single target heals, but I guess Druid just needed some buffs overall. Evokers are going to see a big damage buff to their Scale Commander hero talent tree. Bombardment is a big part of how that tree works, so a 30% damage increase is definitely sizable. Devastation will also see a 15% boost to Eternity Surge, and some talents were shifted around. The Preservation tier set bonuses were also redesigned, but there's still plenty of time for these set bonuses to change again and again, so I wouldn't worry too much about that until closer to launch. Moving on to the Hunters, their Rejuvenating Wind talent was nerfed down to 12% of max health, down from 20%, so that was cut almost in half. Survival has quite a few changes to talents that interact with Explosive Shot, so the free Explosive Shots won't grant cooldown reduction and won't consume your buffs either. Mages have quite a lot of changes. Reabsorption was nerfed down to 3% health, down from 5%, and Cryo Freeze causes Ice Block to heal you for 25 and 50% health, down from 30 and 80%, so they really want to rein in the power of these percentage-based heals. The Spellslinger hero talent tree saw quite a few nerfs, reducing the splinters produced and the tree's overall effectiveness. Arcane also saw quite a lot of nerfs, which isn't too surprising. Arcane has been doing insane damage on the beta since their big buffs. High voltage base chance was reduced, but proc chance per failure was increased. Other attunement damage bonuses were cut down to 150%, down from 150 and 100%. Arcane Blast and Arcane Missiles damage are both down 5%. Arcane Barrage is down 10%, and there's a bug fix for things generating clear casting that shouldn't have been. Frost saw some interesting changes to Icy Veins and how it interacts with other talents. Glacial Spike damage is up 10%, and then some other talents have shifted around. Monks have some quick changes. Healing Elixir was nerfed down to 10% health, down from 15%. Overflowing Mist was knocked down to 0.6 and 1.2%, down from 1 and 2%. And then Life Cocoon's absorb amount was reduced by 40%, so a pretty big nerf there for Mistweaver. Paladins are up next, and they're actually going to see quite a few nerfs to their healing. The Herald of the Sun hero talent tree will see some major nerfs to healing effects especially, but also to how much those effects contribute to Beacon of Light healing, so almost a kind of double nerf there for Holy Paladins. Templar saw some nerfs as well. The haste buff was reduced, damage of Empyrean hammers was reduced, and the cleave and AoE potential was taken down a notch as well. For Holy specifically, Holy Light was reduced by 20%, and Imbued Infusion was nerfed down to 1 second CDR, down from 2. Rep Paladins saw quite a few changes to talents, which ones are learned by default. Some talents were made baseline. There's a new AoE talent, some talents had their points reduced or increased, and there were a handful of other talent changes too. For the priests, Voidweaver saw a quick damage nerf, and Pain Transformation will heal for 15% of max health, down from 25. That's all for the priests this week, I'm afraid. Rogues have some quick healing nerfs too. Cloaked in Shadows creates an absorb for 18% of max health, down from 30, and Soothing Darkness now heals for 15% max health, down from 24. Shamans have a couple changes this week too. Tempest damage was increased by 50%, which will be pretty significant for the Stormbringer hero talent tree. Echo of the Elementals, Lesser Elementals deal 65% of your main Elemental's damage. An enhancement nerf to Elemental Blast was reverted. The new forceps for enhancement has been redesigned. Earthen Wall Totem's health was slashed almost in half, and then Torrent now increases Riptide's healing by 20% and its crit rate by 10%. Warlocks are going to see a nerf to Demon Skin, both to how quickly it can stack up, but also the max value, so that'll be reduced to 5 and 10% of your max health moving forward. A lot of their hero talents were also redesigned, which is quite interesting. Big changes can apparently still happen for these hero talents, even though we are rapidly approaching the release date, so keep your eyes peeled for big updates if you aren't liking how your hero talents are shaping up so far. And then Soul Conduit was buffed for both Affliction and Destruction due to their slower generation when compared to Demonology. And then for Warriors, Stormwall now heals for 5% of max health, Invigorating Fury will heal for 10%, down from 15%, and Pain and Gain was knocked down to 2.1 and 3.5% for both specializations. So a lot of nerfs to self-healing and self-sustain especially, which is going to put more pressure onto healers to keep everyone alive. We'll have to see how everything plays out, but this should make it less likely that we see groups running no healers in higher difficulty content in the War Within. But that's all of the updates we have for this week, so that's it for this video. What are you most looking forward to in the War Within pre-patch? How do you feel about having more world content or solo content options at max level in the War Within? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and to all of our members here on YouTube. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can find links in the description or click the join button just below the video. If you enjoyed the video or found it useful in any way, make sure to subscribe and ring that notification bell so you're always kept up to date. Thanks for watching, folks, good luck and have fun, and as always I will see you next time.